Britain was desperate for more than American goodwill. She sorely needed American troops. Without them, conscription for all the services in Britain continued to be crucial. Among those deciding which service to join in 1941 was university graduate Oliver Wright.
I didn't want to join the Air Force because I didn't like flying. I thought the Army was too much like hard work, and in particular, marching all over the place. And so really that left the Navy. And in any case, the Navy was surrounded by water, so you could always get a decent wash. And I thought that this was really a sailor's life for me. I joined the Navy in 41 at HMS Ganges, which was the training ship. There were me and 59 lads from Glasgow. And we fell in on the parade ground. And the petty officer in charge said, "All those been to school, 1 step forward, march." And we all took 1 step forward and marched. All those who got school certificate, 1 step forward, march. And 3 or 4 of the lads stepped forward and marched. "Anyone been to university? 1 step forward, march." I took 1 step forward, march. Only one. "Right, you're class leader." So I had to be responsible for the mess and, in a sense, see that the other 59 lads turned up on parade at the given time.
As ever, warfare brought heartache, with the division of families and friends. Often, people didn't know where their loved ones were, or even whether they were still alive.
The first separation we had, he was posted in Liverpool. And I remember going up to stay there for 3 days. And then we said goodbye. I didn't know when I'd see him again. And I didn't see him for another 2.5 years. I didn't know where he was. I had various hints from him because we'd devised a code where he mentioned certain animals which equaled various ports in the world where he thought he'd be. But those letters were very few and far between. One used to find his jackets, and I used to bury my face in his jacket and smell him and think, I hope he'll be back soon.
Jim Hutchinson joined the Navy when he was 15. 6 years later, in the middle of the war, he married the girl of his dreams.
I got married on a Thursday afternoon. I went away on Friday morning at 8 o'clock, and I didn't see my wife again for 16 months. Once you are on a ship, it's like another world.
However, the class and rank distinctions on board mirrored those on dry land.
The life of an officer in the Navy was, during war, was very much like it was in peacetime, really. One had one's very comfortable cabin to sleep in. The wardroom for the officers was always beautifully maintained by the stewards and so on, and the meals were properly served. Life for the ordinary sailors was not all that uncomfortable, but it was a bit rudimentary. They had to send a man along to the ship's galley to collect the food and bring it back and dole it out. Their sleeping quarters, where they slung their hammocks, was also where they had to eat. And they had to dismantle the tables and sling their hammocks. So it was all right, but it wasn't exactly luxurious.
you had enough food. You were far better off than the civilian population, in spite of what you had to put up with from times as regards like fresh provisions. But the ship will carry enough provision for the last 3 months, but they were nearly all tin foods, and battleships and bigger ships all had their own bakery, so you always had fresh bread. You would all fall back on ship's biscuits. Mind you had to knock the weevils out a couple of times, but they weren't too bad.
Weevils weren't the only non-human companions that sailors found thriving aboard ship.
Because of these cockroaches were all over the place, and they were running around the messes, and they're on the tables, and you used to have to sweep them off. What we used to do was get a tin lid from a tobacco tin, because all the cigarettes were in tins because of the heat. They weren't in packets, so they're always in tins. So we used to get the lid of one of these tins, pour some rum in, put the cockroaches into it, get them drunk, and then race them up and down to the mess tables.
The cockroaches weren't the only ones getting more than their fair share of alcohol.
A fleet order came out, went all round the fleet, to say that it had been proved medically that a glass of sherry was good for night blindness, and so night vision, really, rather than blindness. And so we used to improve our night vision no end every evening. And then they cancelled the order. Instead of writing a new order saying that this order was no longer applicable, they just said order number 235 was cancelled. Nobody paid any attention.
The sailors did have time off from fighting, but there was no respite from missing the folks back home.
Sometimes you'd go 3 months and you wouldn't receive a letter because you were either on convoys, mail was not catching it, you'd be in one port and then you'll get a sudden move to somewhere else and your mail would have been sent to that port. So quite often the mail that we received was 3 months old, 2 to 3 months old. So often when my wife got her letters, they were months old, and they were always censored. And she'd get letters with little pieces cut out, where you'd write something, you'd perhaps say, oh, I'm down off West Africa or something like that, and that would be cut out. It wasn't allowed to be put in. So the censors, they would go through everybody's letter. Everybody's letter was read before it was ever sent. And anything that they considered shouldn't be sent was cut out.
By August 1941, the war had been going on for nearly 2 years. Germany had taken the Rhineland, Sudetenland, Austria, Poland, Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium, France, the Balkans, Greece, parts of North Africa, and 500,000 square miles of the Soviet Union. But the most awesome fighting machine ever unleashed upon the world was slowing down. Britain had shown that despite relentless bombing attacks, she would not surrender. And Stalin was proving to be the most formidable and ruthless adversary Hitler had encountered.